And lastly, you do what I say, when I say it.
We clear?
Sure.
Repeat it.
What you say goes.
Good.
Naughty Dog, one of Sony's best first-party developers, is back with something that is quite different from their usual fare. The Last of Us is more grounded, mature, and focused on bringing you into a world of death and chaos. Taking place 20 years after the outbreak of a fungus that has turned the majority of America's population into flesh-hungry creatures, The Last of Us follows Joel and Ellie, two survivors whose lives connect through unfortunate circumstances. The nature of their meeting and the ultimate goal of their adventure together are better left discovered for yourself, but these two characters and their relationship is what ties this tale together, and it's executed magnificently. Joel is an older man who was alive during the initial outbreak and views the world differently than 14-year-old Ellie, who was born into this chaos.
I was never a big fan of these things.
I wish I could play it.
During their travels, the two often discuss each other's lives, with Ellie's natural curiosity about the world before the infected often shining through. Without these two characters or their connection with one another, the game might fall completely flat. Like similar post-apocalyptic games, it becomes less about the world or the dangers in it and more about the people who are desperate to survive. The Last of Us presents a world full of death, and yet covered in life, as plants begin to retake the land once inhabited by humans. Each area you come across tells a different story about the lives of those who came before you. Like with any good post-apocalyptic story, these moments aren't necessary to flesh out the world, yet they add just enough subtle elements to keep you exploring. The focus remains with Joel, Ellie, and the various other survivors you come across, yet the beauty of the overgrown cityscapes is something special. This is helped by The Last of Us' stunning visuals, which seem to be pushing the PS3 to the limit. Even the smallest aspects are fleshed out in immaculate detail. Top this off with a stellar soundtrack and you have a game that almost speaks for itself. The game is primarily focused on stealth, and throughout your adventure you'll run into plenty of enemies to deal with in one way or another. There are the infected with various types, including runners, enemies that are easy to dispatch but attack in swarms, and clickers, which are blind but detect sound very easily and can kill you in one hit, making sneaking past them the favorable option every time.
Go!
The creepy noise of the clickers combined with the tension of remaining unseen makes these scenarios scarier than the most recent horror games I've played.
Are we gonna help him?
Put your seatbelt on, Ellie.
Well, what about the guy?
He ain't even hurt.
The biggest threat, however, are the human enemies. Many of these encounters are large, multi-tiered areas full of several potential paths to take, with stealth remaining the best option available. Thankfully, Joel has learned to hone his hearing, and by holding the R2 button on the PS3 controller, you can easily identify where enemies are by the sounds they are making. Eventually, you learn to deal with your limited resources, and when confronted, will have to make the most of what you have at your disposal. It's an excellent system that teaches you to value your resources, and will eventually make the game's more difficult scenarios manageable. You will need to constantly scavenge for resources, sometimes leading you into dangerous situations.
You're gonna go in there?
I want to see what we can find.
You're gonna find my body when I die from a heart attack.
Don't worry. I got this.
Crafting allows you to create medkits, shivs, and even explosives such as Molotovs and nail bombs. All of this happens in real time, making it difficult to craft while you are in the middle of combat. Once again, this keeps you on your toes, making sure you are constantly checking your supplies before entering areas full of enemies. You also gather scraps for weapon upgrades, useful for increasing each weapon's clip size and damage, among other things, plus medicine to increase Joel's capabilities such as his listening distance and crafting speed. Stealth won't always be an option for you, so you'll have to rely on taking out opponents, either humans or infected, with your trusty guns. Unlike most games with a reliance on gunplay, you have very limited resources, so it's always recommended to find a path around the enemy rather than confronting them head-on. But when that's not the case, you'll be counting every single bullet and doing your best to never miss a shot. With this being a game about survival, violence is everywhere, and it's one of the most effective aspects in The Last of Us. It's not uncommon in games these days, yet this emphasis on survival also heavily emphasizes what is necessary in order to survive. This is communicated through the gameplay in remarkable and disturbing ways. Each gunshot or punch feels impactful and the violence more intimate than your average action game, leaving you with the cold reality that yes, it was unfortunate, but necessary.
Watch out!
Combine that with the game's overwhelming intensity, and this is the first title I've played in a long time that made me put down the controller for a while simply because I needed to catch my breath. The Last of Us also features competitive multiplayer, something I initially thought would be easy to dismiss. Surprisingly enough, it works, taking the best aspects of the game's single player and adding them successfully to team-based multiplayer. The Last of Us isn't for everyone. Its slow, methodical pace, emphasis on stealth, and extreme violence might turn players away, but it's an emotional tale of survival wrapped in excellent mechanics and a brilliant world that is well worth experiencing. Above all else, it proves you can tell a mature story and craft the game around that story with mechanics that support the weight of its themes. It is a gaming experience you won't soon forget.
If I get into trouble down there, you make every shot count. Yeah.
I got this.